This is the second part of the Menendez story, so watch the first part if you haven't. Basically, in the first part, the Menendez brothers kill their parents using shotguns. Stupidly, Erik admits everything to his therapist, Dr. Oziel, who then tells his mistress, who eventually tells the authorities. The authorities finally search Dr. Oziel's house and get their hands on the Menendez tapes. Then they arrest Lyle first while he's with his friends. Jerry Chalif, the boy's lawyer, then advises Erik to drop out of his tennis tournament and come home. When he lands, Detective Zoller is already waiting to arrest him. Erik gags on the smell of his cell, and Lyle recognizes his voice. They cry as they hold each other's hand, thinking it's just them now against everyone. Lyle spends his time using the payphone, while Erik refuses to shower or eat prison food. He's also afraid of one prisoner who keeps looking at him. But they soon show interest with each other, and even take a shower together when the others are done. The brothers' attorney, Robert Shapiro, thinks their arraignment was already a disaster. He says the boys look like psychopaths who didn't even smile. They look spoiled, rich, and disrespectful, so their public image is already affected. Erik thinks the jury will side with them if he reveals what their parents did, but Lyle tells him not to say anything. The boys' family are disappointed that the case is not progressing, so Shapiro tells them to get someone else to help them, or the boys will be put to death. The cops find the escape plan that Lyle handed to Erik, so they move Lyle to a different cell block. After firing Robert Shapiro, the boys' family reaches out to Leslie Abramson, a famous criminal attorney. Abramson thinks the boys don't deserve the death penalty or being locked up for life, but explains she'll only be defending Erik, and Lyle has a separate legal counsel. Erik cries when he meets Abramson for the first time, but refuses to disclose any secret regarding their family's past as mentioned in Lyle's note. Erik doesn't want to see any therapist anymore because of what happened with Dr. Oziel, but he agrees to see the forensic psychiatrist Dr. William Vicary, whom Abramson picked for him. Erik breaks down as he admits that he and Lyle really did kill their parents. On their next meeting, Erik admits to Abramson that Lyle sexually molested him when he was 5 or 6. He thought he liked it at first, then not anymore. But Erik says he never blamed his brother because Lyle was also molested by their father. Erik confesses that the molestation with Lyle only stopped because Lyle told his father not to do it anymore. He remembers vividly when it stopped, because his father started doing it to him afterward. Erik cries as Abramson comforts him. He adds that he used to sprinkle cinnamon onto Jose's coffee to make his juice taste better. Then Jose started putting lemon juice on Erik's food to numb his taste buds. Erik then admits that at some point he thought he'd do anything just to make it all stop. Lyle admits to his counsel, Jill Lansing, that they started seeing Dr. Oziel after the robbery case which Erik took the fall for. Abramson mentions that Erik told her about the abuse they were experiencing, but Lyle gets mad, thinking they are trying to paint a bad picture of Jose Menendez. Lyle insists his father was a good man and that he loved him so much. He says Jose wanted him to be #1 at everything including sports, school, and girls. When Lyle got suspended, Jose tried to pull strings just to save his son's image and education. To hide the fact that it's a 1-year suspension, Jose made Lyle an executive trainee in LIVE Entertainment. He bragged about Lyle's achievement while hiding the fact that he was suspended because of plagiarism. Lyle also says his father made him wear a wig when he started losing hair. After they got caught for robbery, Jose was furious when he was called to pick the boys up. He had to pay the damages and the things the brothers stole. He was so angry he told them they were both out of the will. Jose then picked Dr. Oziel for the boys' therapy sessions. He reminded him that if the boys were to mention anything about their family, he should be notified. Then he sent them to see Dr. Oziel. Lyle says Jose started touching him when he was 6. Then when he was 7, Jose made him do things with his mouth. When Jose started using things on him, Lyle finally told a cousin, who then told Kitty, but Kitty didn't believe her. Lyle cries as he admits that's when he started doing it to Erik. When Lyle turned 8, he says his father started showering with him, and that's when Jose really took advantage of him. Lyle says when he told his father to stop, Jose did, but then he started doing it to Erik. Lyle realized this, so he approached his father to talk to him. He asked his father to stop doing it to Erik, but Jose said that Erik liked making things up. When they got older, Lyle found out that Jose was still doing it to Erik. When he found the courage, Lyle confronted Jose, telling him to stop or he will tell everyone what's happening in their family behind closed doors. Instead of being scared, Jose was so proud that Lyle was now standing up for something. He believed that both Lyle and Erik finally made a choice for themselves. Lyle got nervous and he believed that their father was going to kill them then. A journalist named Dominic Dunn covers the boys' trial and story. He believes that based on how Kitty and Jose were murdered, money couldn't be the reason. Abramson is furious after reading the article because she thinks the boys are not going to have a fair trial now that the report has affected public opinion. She's mad that Dunn didn't even seem to read the forensic reports and just made an article based on what he believed in. Abramson meets up with Lyle's best friend Donovan to know more. Donovan says that Lyle was so angry back then when his father cheated on his mother. Donovan also reveals that he and Lyle shared secrets with each other, and at one point Lyle admitted to him that he and Erik were being abused by their father. Abramson is surprised because the confession happened 4 months before the murders. Then Lyle admits that after he confronted his father, Jose confronted Erik. When Erik found out that their mother knew everything that was happening, he immediately told Lyle. They both believed they were running out of time. Lyle says his mother loved guns and he believed she even had a handgun with a silencer. They were afraid of what was going to happen, so he and Erik bought shotguns. The next day, their shark fishing trip was moved from 11 to 4 p.m., which scared them even more. They thought their parents would kill them when it was dark and just dump them in the water. They tried avoiding the trip by driving all afternoon, but when they got back, their parents were still waiting for them. Inside the car, they thought something was suspicious, so they sat together when they were on the yacht, thinking it would help them survive. Lyle then apologized to Erik for what he did to him, and Erik told him that it wasn't his fault. After their trip, the brothers refused to get in the car with their parents. They only felt a sense of relief when they saw that the silver thing in their mother's bag was a lipstick and not a gun. Episode 5 is shot in a single take between Abramson asking Erik to recount the abuse he experienced from his father. Cooper is a tour de force as he portrays Erik's trauma. Some of the most notable parts is Erik saying how his father's sexual abuse started when he was just 6 years old. Through emotional abuse, Jose Menendez made Erik strive for his father's love. It was only during physical molestation that Jose Menendez would say, "I love you" to his son. Jose Menendez started with massages, then using a toothbrush at first, eventually progressed to using Erik's mouth, then eventually raping Erik forcefully. Abramson validates Erik's experiences and says she understands his conflicting feelings of having love for his father, but also hating him for what he's done. Erik also mentions how his mother, Kitty, would constantly do inspections on his private parts. Abramson says his mother was complicit in the abuse and never went to the authorities, saying Erik deserved better. 1962 in Carbondale, Illinois. Jose Menendez meets Kitty for the first time and fell in love. They get married even though both of their families do not agree with the union. Despite being young and broke, Jose promises Kitty he'd give her everything in life. Fast forward and Kitty admits to her therapist how much she hates her kids. She thinks Lyle is scary and that Erik is just pathetic. She is also depressed because Jose is cheating on her with a woman named Louise. On Christmas Eve, Jose gifts Kitty with a gold bracelet and a new Mercedes-Benz, and a book for each of his sons. He wants them to learn from the book like he did when he was young. So he's heartbroken when he receives news that his sons have been robbing houses. He's so angry and embarrassed that he cries when he picks them up. To save their family's image, Jose moves his family to Beverly Hills. He also initially attends the boys' first therapy session with Dr. Oziel, which was ordered by the court. Jose blames himself for his son's sense of entitlement. He thinks the only way to handle the boys is if he's strict with them. After successfully signing Menudo with RCA Records, Jose celebrates by spending some private time with a young man. Meanwhile, Lyle and Erik gang up on their mother, finally making her snap. Kitty calls her sons psychopaths, saying she should just poison the entire family. During dinner, Kitty collapses on the floor, and the boys just stare at her without offering any help. After his business trip, Jose is determined to make a positive change to his family. He admits he finally ended his relationship with his mistress. Then he takes Lyle and Erik to every house they robbed to apologize, and then he himself pays for everything they stole. He told Erik to take the fall for the crime and tell the police and the therapist that it was all his idea. Lyle was already 21 years old, and he was worried that the crime would ruin his life, so they made Erik admit to the robberies since he was just a minor. Jose wants Lyle to get a degree from Princeton, then get into business and politics afterward. He also warns the boys it would be the last time he'd save them from trouble. When Lyle gets kicked out of Princeton from plagiarism, Jose apologizes for not hitting him hard enough to fix him. Lyle then confesses that he and Erik are the way they are because of the physical and emotional abuse they received from their father. Jose wants Erik to enter UCLA, then help him with politics afterward. To Erik's disappointment, Jose has also picked a girlfriend for him. He insists he wants to be a model and an actor, and he's going to do what he wants to do. Jose is furious, so he drags Erik to his room to deal with. Kitty hears the abuse but doesn't do anything about it. Later, he finds out that Erik is not using the condoms he gave. He's worried that Erik might catch AIDS, so he confides in Kitty. Kitty then tells Erik she has to check his penis for blisters and herpes sores. Confused as to why Jose is so concerned about Erik getting AIDS, she asks her husband if something sexual is going on between him and the boys. Jose says nothing like that is happening. He also admits he was abused as a kid by his own mother. Then he assures Kitty that taking showers with the boys and wrestling with them are completely normal. During their couple's therapy, Jose is disappointed that Kitty mentioned his secret to the doctor prior to their meeting. So he walks out of the office. He confronts his mother that night, but she insists she doesn't know what he's talking about. Soon after, Erik overhears his father talking to his lawyer about making changes in his last will and testament. During another session with Dr. Oziel, Kitty finally admits she regrets having the boys, but Jose is practicing his smile because right after that, they take a series of family photos. Then on a Sunday, the boys enter their mansion with shotguns in their hands. What do you guys think of this so far? It is a heart-wrenching story that had me pausing the series a bit to make sure I was okay. Something that you don't wish on any child. With that, do you think the boys were justified in killing their parents? There's only 3 episodes left to cover. Should we cover them?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.